Hey everybody, it's Marcel here. Been a while since my last video. I'm finally done with finals and everything, so I have a chance to relax and kind of get back into the rhythm of things. So, Riley J. Dennis put out a video, "Your dating preferences are discriminatory." Now, despite being a MGTOW, I felt obliged to reply to his questions, as the concepts surrounding them apply to the video I'm about to make. I'm titling it "My Thoughts on Attraction." There'll be a link in the description as well as one on the end of this video. Okay, so first things first. I'm gonna switch back and forth a little bit from talking to Riley or my viewers, and I'm sure I'm probably gonna butcher his pronouns. That's unfortunate. I don't really agree with the whole pick a pronoun movement, so it's just how I talk. So to put it all in context, he says essentially our preferences are implicit biases that were created by basically coaching or training through society, that they're not real, and we should disregard them completely and date regardless of a person's genitals or physical appearances. Riley, you ask me,
would you date someone who's trans? Would you date someone who's black? Would you date someone who's fat? Would you date someone who's disabled?
So, firstly, I'm straight. I've only had a few opportunities to even interact with transsexuals in my life. I've got one friend who's transsexual, and I've hung out with them a few times. I'm not going to say I was sexually attracted to them. I didn't have an issue with the fact that he was transitioning. I feel like if a person were completely passable, and I was not aware that they had transitioned post-op, and I met them and had feelings for them back when I was a blue pill guy, I probably would have given them an honest chance. Especially if they did not lie to me about it. Honesty was a rare commodity, and I valued it pretty highly when I found it. I think what you're really trying to ask is whether or not I would go out with any trans individuals. You leave a hell of a lot to the imagination here. You don't specify whether or not they're pre or post-op. You don't specify how they look, whether or not their personality is shit. Oh, right. But you say none of that should matter, that we should basically just date anybody that happens to walk up and ask us out. Wouldn't want to have a bias based on genitals now, would we? Or what did you call it? Was it genitalifying? Something like that?
You're kind of genitalifying them?
For me personally, I look at the way an individual acts, how they behave, who they are. And though I'm not attracted to masculine things or anyone with a penis in general, I'm certainly not going to judge them for their choices in life or who they are. You don't seem to take into account that the ability to have children is a huge factor for some people when considering others to take into a relationship. You also don't factor in religion into that, which, despite my not being a religious person, religion's important, and it plays a role in people's decisions in dating as well. Your second question here kind of bothers me a little bit, because honestly I don't see being black as a disability. With all respect, I don't see it as equivalent to being fat or trans. I'm not trying to spark up a debate with my African American viewers, but does that bother anybody else that it's put on the same list as a disability? Let alone by a transgendered Caucasian male feminist. At least that's what I think he identifies as. Now, as for me, there have been girls I have dated in my life that I didn't even pay attention to what skin color they were when I met them. It wasn't even something I was looking at. I was either more focused on trying to avoid their drama or staring at their ass. So it didn't even come up. When I was looking for someone to date, I didn't even think about it unless they looked really pretty in regards to their skin color. Can't say I ever had a preference either. Not in regards to that anyway. Now, if you were to ask your viewers, Riley, whether or not a person would date someone from another culture or ethnicity, that's a bit different, because relatively speaking, cultures don't always mesh together when it comes to someone's heritage, their beliefs, their values, their family, their country, and the way they were raised. That's an entirely different question, though, and might not have anything to do with skin color. So even if I interpreted what you asked as a cultural or ethnic reference, then why are you only addressing one example? Why not Mexican? Why not Asian? Why not German? Why just one culture? Or is it only because that's a current hot button issue right now? As to whether or not I would date a fat woman, I have dated several. I will go over my thoughts on obesity in another video, though within a reasonable range, body weight was never a factor for me. I've dated some pretty big girls, and some really petite ones. As for dating girls who are disabled, I've been out with one that was in a wheelchair, I've been out with one that was partially blind. Went out with a deaf girl for a while there. Was kind of dangerous, she couldn't hear the safety words. I wonder if the question includes mentally disabled, because there's a lot of people with mental problems out there and you don't even know it until after you've gone out with them for a while and then all of a sudden they start showing up. Whether or not I would go out with a person with any kind of disability, which seems to be the majority of what you've presented here, is in the sense of it being a handicap on the relationship. Depends a lot on whether or not that person allows the handicap or disability to get in the way of the relationship. It comes down to their personality and how they handle their situation as an individual. It really depends more on them, because I would not have judged them for it, especially not initially. The connection here that he is trying to make is that if you would not be a bigot and be racist or biased against these people in general, then you should also not be biased against whether or not you would date or have sex with them. Those are two totally different things. He lumps transgendered into those categories because he hopes to use the pressure from those acceptance movements to leverage the same level of acceptance towards his cause. I disagree with him completely, because there is nothing wrong with having expectations or standards when it comes to dating, whether it be romantic or purely sexual. So, is anyone surprised that this person is the one complaining about people and having biases in attraction or presumed biases? Is anyone surprised when people that don't have a lot of money complain about not getting paid enough? Kanye West made that song where he talks about having money's not everything, but not having it is. Good life? I guess that applies for looks too, doesn't it? Individuals with the most to benefit from a change in society are often the ones who push it the hardest. In cases like this, people with this particular set of problems, considering Riley is not an obese, handicapped black woman, I'm referring to transgendered people specifically, are remarkably rare, which means that a general change in society as a whole is going to hinder most of us and help very, very few. The way I like to look at it, if these people have a right to choose their gender, or anybody has a right to just choose their gender, whatever it is, don't I have a right to choose not to be attracted to them and not be guilted or shunned for that choice of not being attracted to them, if it is in fact a choice? And if it's not a choice and it's natural, then they need to back the hell off because it's not something that I chose. The waters are getting really freaking muddy when it comes to genders and attraction and all this stuff based on these people's opinion, and it's only exacerbating the issues with feminists like this one and the agendas that they have. The whole situation is pretty retarded. That a person can say, I want to be blank gender, you can't discriminate against me, but I can discriminate against you if you're not attracted to whatever gender I happen to choose. Then some of them spin that their gender was not in fact a choice and was natural, while simultaneously assuming that our choice in preference is not. I want my cake, I want to eat it too, and it better be the damn right flavor. Though granted, perhaps Riley is more of an isolated example. An extreme one, even. There is no comparisons between him and someone like Blaire White, for example. Essentially, I wouldn't lump all trans people into a box. From a broader perspective, I understand that life can be cruel. And there's a push nowadays that rather than becoming stronger individuals and adapting to the world around us, that there's this expectation that the world around us or around certain people should adapt to them. in order to accommodate their individual needs and desires. So, harsh reality check. Not everybody gets to be president. Not everyone is beautiful. Not everyone is rich. We don't all get a medal for simply being in the race. And finally, you don't get to change the rules of the game halfway through because you don't like the fact that you lost on the odds and don't get everything you want out of life. One thing that we do all have control of is how we handle ourselves in any situation. Whether we allow what happens to us or what we're given to hold us back or move beyond it. I have seen some truly inspiring situations of perseverance in my life where people, against all odds, have gone through and overcome the shitty situations they've been put through and never once cried or complained or asked the rest of the world to bend over for them. So no, Riley, you don't get to tell other people how they feel about each other or about you. We all know that you would not allow us to tell you how you feel about any other topic. Part of me almost hopes that this backfires on Riley, that the most appalling, disgusting person that could ever approach them comes up and starts hitting on him. And he has to sit back and question his morals as to whether or not he would say yes to that person, or would he judge them. Of course, I don't want to assume what his standards are, or if he has any. He may take whatever he can get. And that brings me into my thoughts and views on attraction. I will put a link to it right here and down below. I will put one to his video as well. As a reminder, I don't condone any forms of harassment. Let's not give him any more excuses to whine and complain. Finally, if any of you have any thoughts or comments on this, share them down below. I'll do my best to reply to them when I can. And if you want to hear more, like and subscribe.